I'm just going to show you how to do these dot plots first. You'll need the graph paper to create these. Very similar, dot plots are going to be very similar to doing histograms. So just let's see, this is kind of, there you go. So remember, a histogram looks something like this. Right? We had a frequency on the y-axis. On the x-axis, we had intervals like 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and so on. So histogram and dot plot are very similar. Okay, not exactly the same, but similar. There are no intervals on a dot plot, so it's only really used when you have only a few repeated numbers many times. So you can see here it's like the same numbers over and over and over, like 14, 15, 16, and 17. So just a few repeated single numbers, like so. And then you simply just put a dot for each one that you can see here. So I'll just start here and say it's going to be a dot. Let's see, 16. First row, 14, 16, 17. Oh, there's a 13 as well, so I'll put 13, 14, 14. And then just second row, just keep going. So we got 15, 16, 15, 15, 14, another 15, and 16. Okay. Got third row is going to be 13, 14, 16, 16, and 15, 14, no, 15, yeah, 14, 15. And the last would be 17, 16, 14, 14. 15, 14, 14. Okay. And then ideally here you could see on the y-axis, you can see like a frequency. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see how many of each. But or you just count the dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and count it up. So that's a dot plot. It's probably one of the most simplest types of summaries of data that we have, where you just put a dot for each number, and it can only be used if you have just a few repeated numbers. So if you have a bunch of numbers that, you know, from 0 through 100, histogram would probably be more appropriate, because in the end you're trying to, once you know all the different plots, you're trying to pick the one that's going to be the best for the data that you're given. Alright, so that's basically it. Very straightforward, simple. Do it on the graph paper. You know, each one of these dots should be on its own square on the graph paper, so it'll be very well scaled. Okay. So go ahead and work on the front side, just making a dot plot for each one. I guess on the graph paper though. And as you guys are doing that, I'll come around and stamp whatever you have finished. And then after I finish stamping, I'll go over the back with stem and leaf plots. Okay? So for stem plots in the back, you might know these as stem and leaf plots. Okay, so for stem and leaf plots, my advice to you is to first write them in order from least to greatest. And then you're going to group these by what they start with. So you notice how they're written in like 3 even groups of 5. You don't want to keep to those even groups idea, but keep to like write all the 70s together. So kind of go through and find all the 70s and group those together. So and put them in order. So we have 75, 77 and 78. Right? And then go through and group all the 80s together, like so. And then put those in order. So we have 80, 82, 86, and 89, 89. Keep on going. Do the 90s. We got 92, 94, 95, 97, 98, 99. And then lastly, there's a 100. So step one, put them in order from least to greatest, not in even rows, but by the prefix of each number. So they should share the same number in each row. Okay? And that's what a stem or a stem and leaf plot does. It groups them by a similar number at the beginning. So for here, so what you want to create is the stem plot. And the first column is whatever they have in common. So like all of these have a start with a 7. So we'll have 75. So that's 75, and this for 77, I'm just going to put a 7. So I already know the first number is listed here, and then the rest of it's listed after. And that's 78. So when you're looking at a stem and leaf plot, this does not mean 5, 7, and 8. You have to look at the prefix number. So this is 75, 77, 78. So you see how I converted these three numbers to a stem and a leaf. Technically, this is the stem, and these are the leaves. And the stem is the part that has in common. Because a stem, right, there's one stem, but then you can have many leaves on a stem. So there's one stem, that's the prefix that they have in common, and then the many leaves. So you'll see it called a stem plot sometimes, other times it's a stem and leaf plot. So here is 80. So I'll put the 8 that's in common with all of them, and then following would be 80, 82, 86, 89, and 89. And then same thing for 90. We'll have 92, 94, 95, 97, 99. And lastly would be the 100. So I'll put 10 as the prefix and then just a 0. That'll make 100. Okay. And we also want to have a key of sorts so we know how to interpret this. So we could just pick a number and say, okay, 7 and 5 means 75. So include that at the bottom. And then also, like before, probably want to include a title of some sorts. So we can say, let's see here, number of games, number of games won, something like that. Give it a title. So there is a complete stem and leaf with a key at the bottom, a title on it. Do keep in mind, these need to be in order, numerical order. And when I'm grading tests, this is the most common mistake. People put just in the order that's listed here. So it's very tempted just to go, okay, 82, 75, and the leaves here are all out of order. So they should be in order. That's why I said first, rewrite them in order. Okay? So that's a stem and leaf plot. You might have a situation where, like, let's say if I added one more number here, like 127, you might have a situation on your stem where you have a blank, like 11, because we don't have anything that's 110, 111, 112, and then there'd be a 12 below, and then the 7. So it's okay to have a blank, just like on a histogram, when we were doing histograms. Okay. So you might have blanks, and that's okay. If you go down below here, you'll notice, like, well, what do you do here for the prefix on these numbers? Okay. So we have, like, teens, we have 20s, and we have 30s. So for something like, let's see here, 10, it'd be 1, 0, right? That would be 10. And then for 20, smallest 20-something is 22. That would be 22. And 30, 1, I think, is the smallest 30. So what do you do for these single digits? Okay. So for single digits, you want to use a 0 for the prefix. So 04, or 01. So 1 would be 01. So just know that if you're single digits, you want to put a prefix of 0 in the front. Okay. And then again, put the key at the bottom. So we know that 0, 1 means 1. It'll be interpretable by anybody looking at this without reading the actual description. Okay? We'll use a prefix of 0 for single digits. Okay, and that's those are stem plots, or stem and leaf plots. Okay. So go ahead and finish those on the graph paper as well. Neatness is key, so try to make it as neat as possible. Use straight edges when necessary. Help yourself out. Okay. Okay. We'll do a review tomorrow and quiz on Friday. Okay.